Dividend. Most of the time, instead of using the word dividend, we might be using the term called as distribution of dividend. Okay. Because if I say dividend, it's a term. Okay. அது எப்படி ப்ராசஸ் பண்றாங்க இதெல்லாமே சேர்த்துதான் distribution of profits dividend is okay. So distribution of because as per the act you have to follow distribution of profit. Or if you go particularly with respect to the word, or if you want to define what you mean by dividend, you can say it's an appropriation of profit. Okay, it's an appropriation of profit. See, when we talk about two types of capital, one is equity, includes preference also, and another one debt capital. And when you want to define with respect to this capital, and if you want to link the word profit, you can say for equity, it's an appropriation of profit. The returns, what you do. Probably in accounting term, we use this as return on investment. Okay. So, with related to equity capital, we call this dividend as profit appropriated. Whereas if you talk about debt capital, we use the term here profit, but not appropriated, but charge on profit. Okay. முதல்ல இவங்களுக்கு தரீங்களோ இல்லையோ இவங்களுக்கு கொடுத்தே ஆகும். It becomes mandated. Not only for this one, you want to change the name or you want to expand your business, whatever it is, we'll just check whether the last year financial statements have been filed, annual returns have been filed, and along with that, whether there is no default with respect to 3 years payment of dividend, payment of interest, reduction of preference shares, redemption of debentures, everything. Okay, so also deposits. So dividend is such an important heading because when I go invest as a owner, okay, not a debt, as a not as a loan lender, as a owner, if I go for investment in a company, I expect something in return. Okay. Usually what you expect. ஒரு 10 லட்சம் ரூபாய் இருக்கு பேங்க்ல போட்டா என்ன கிடைக்கும்? That's nominal, right? Or a percentage of interest, probably 9% or 10% or 7%, whatever it is. Okay. Probably I may be needing this money in the future. So என்ன பண்ணலாம் பேங்க்ல போட்டு வைப்போம் தேவைப்படும். Okay. There may be any personal reasons of mine. I'll be using this amount in my future. But at the same time, when you talk about investment, so many investments are there. Probably bank deposit பண்றது. You know what else? Probably I can talk about buying jewels or gold. Okay, gold is different and jewel is different. Gold, jewelry, gold, investment, sovereign bonds. Okay. And probably I may be planning for real estate investment also, land, building. I have a land, let me plan for building, so on. But this is such type of an investment, investing in share market, buying shares in a company. And when it becomes one of the investment, what you do? You go for expecting. When you go for expectation, there are two types of expectation. One is revenue, one is capital. Capital appreciate ஆகுதா revenue எனக்கு கிடைக்கும். A particular company need not give the return on investment, which means what? Need not give the dividend at all. ஆனா நான் இப்போ ஒரு 5 லட்சம் ரூபாய் பணத்தை போட்டு ஒரு 3 வருஷம் கண்ணை மூடிட்டு என் பணம் இல்லைன்னு இருந்தேன்னா obviously after 3 years I'll get 8 lakhs or I'll get 10 lakhs. Happy then. If you want to see each and every month you open a bank statement, you want to see the interest because you have the savings, you want to see the interest, then okay, bank investment is okay. Else, related to share investment also, you go for a revenue growth share. எனக்கு வந்து டிவிடெண்ட் வரணும் 3 மாசத்துக்கு குவார்டர்லி டிவிடெண்ட் இல்லைனா இன்டர்னல் டிவிடெண்ட் ஃபைனல் டிவிடெண்ட் ஐ ஹேவ் டு கெட் இட் வாட் ஐ கேன் டூ இன்வெஸ்ட் இன் சச் ஷேர்ஸ் ஸோ தட் ஐ கெட் த ரிட்டர்ன் ஆன் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் லைக் மே நாட் பி மந்த்லி might be like 3 times in a year. ரெண்டு இன்டர்ம் டிவிடெண்ட் ஒரு டிவிடெண்ட் ஃபைனல் டிவிடெண்ட் இந்த மாதிரி எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணலாம். ஓகே. So when we say dividend, it becomes a so very important concept because it's seen in terms of money, tangible form. When you talk about the investment, let me change the color. When you talk about the investment, shares are something which is intangible in nature. Yes, obviously. When you talk about real estate, when you talk about gold bar mangi okay, gold or jewel, all these things are tangible in form. Leave of sovereign bonds, leave of commodity market. Probably bank account also passbookல நிறைய பேர் பார்த்து சாட்டிஸ்ஃபை ஆயிடும். எவ்வளவு பணம் இருக்கு லெட் மீ ஓபன் மை வேலட் அண்ட் செக் 1000 ரூபாய் இருக்கு ஒரு 10 ரூபாய் நோட்டு இருக்கு ஒரு 20 ரூபாய் நோட்டு இருக்கு எல்லாம் சேர்த்து 1000 ரூபாய் இருக்கு ஓகே ஐம் சாட்டிஸ்ஃபைட் ஐ ஃபீல் ஓகே ஐம் சேஃபர் ஓகே ஃபினான்ஷியலா ஐம் சேஃபர் ஐ ஃபீல் லைக் தட் பட் வாட் ஹேப்பன்ஸ் இஃப் ஐ இன்வெஸ்ட் இன் ஷேர் மார்க்கெட் தெரியலையே பயமா இருக்கு என்ன தெரியல ஓகே மாசம் மாசம் டிவிடெண்ட் தரான் வருஷம் வருஷம் டிவிடெண்ட் தரான் ஓகே ஐம் ஹாப்பி what happens is this dividend plays a very important role in whose point of view? Equity shareholders and preference shareholders. When the pair point of view is so very important. So it's given complete provision related in Companies Act. So that's what we are going to discuss over. Okay, complete procedures. So that's why this heading is not about dividend. It's about how you are going to distribute the dividend, distribute the profit. There is a particular procedure. And when we talk about dividend, usually we classify as two. One is interim dividend and one is final dividend. Probably you might be knowing all these concepts, but procedurally, theoretically, we have to go and check this one. We shall go for interim dividend and final dividend. Final dividend is something which will be declared by, already we have discussed, which will be declared by the shareholders in the annual general meeting. Okay. In case, if it is an interim dividend, need not be declared or need not wait for the shareholders to pass a resolution. But what? Board of directors are given the authority. Probably in the quarterly results, we have seen good profits this year. So we want to share this happiness with the shareholders. என்ன பண்ணலாம் ஆளால கூப்பிட்டு ஒரு ஸ்வீட் பாக்ஸ் கொடுத்துடலாம் ஸ்வீட் பாக்ஸுக்கெல்லாம் நாங்கள் கிளம்பி வர மாட்டோம் அந்த ரைட் டெஃபினெட்லி they are not ready for the sweet box. Ultimately, what we want to return. நம்ம ப்ராஃபிட் வந்துருக்குன்னா நீங்க ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க. Okay. So usually two types. One is interim and another one is final. Final means it is being declared. Okay, what do you mean by declared? Actually, the proposal to give the dividend will be given by the board of directors in the board meeting. Resolution pass பண்ணுவாங்க இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணலாம்ட்டு. So it will be brought in the balance sheet as some separate item proposed dividend. Whereas if it goes for the annual general meeting, it becomes one of the ordinary business to pass or not to pass, to declare the dividend to the shareholders. But whereas if you go for an interim dividend, in between, okay, in between not the AGMs, in between not along with the AGM, probably in between like quarterly or yearly, whatever it is. So need not wait for the AGM. It will be declared by the board of directors. Whether it's interim or final, please remember the procedure is the same. நிறைய பேர் இதான் கன்ஃபியூஸ் ஆவாங்க. Not only CA students, CMA students, I remember நிறைய பேர் வந்து we discuss the provisions all related to final dividend, but what happens is the question asked will be the interim dividend. There will be one particular line given, interim dividend or procedures எல்லாமே வந்து final dividend மாதிரியே சொல்லியிருப்பாங்க ஒரு லைன். அது நம்ம யூஷுவலா ரெஜிஸ்டர் ஆகாது நமக்கு மைண்ட்ல. So what we do is we just take it as this is interim dividend, so we don't know, we cannot study. Okay, so final dividend and interim by procedure same. Only difference is final dividend will be proposed by the board of directors first, then it should be declared in the annual general meeting as ordinary business. That's the only difference. But whereas interim dividend, board of directors is given the authority to directly declare it. That's the major difference. Mathapadi same, ditto same. Okay. So let me take over. Let me clean the board. So divisible profit, yes, we use the alternate word called as divisible profit. Okay. So profit or in proportion of profit legally distributed. Legally distributed, I want to highlight, please highlight this word. Legally distributed, I want to highlight this word. Why it is legally distributed? You cannot just, this way of treatment, how the elders will do. Now the recent generation is not doing that way. If you go to your grandpa's house, probably they'll give some 10 rupees or 500 rupees in hand. You visit after a long time. That's why we like our grandparents very much, right? ஓகே அது வேணாம் சொல்ல மாட்டோம் கெத்துக்கா கூட வேணாம் சொல்ல மாட்டோம் நம்ம grandparents. அந்த மாதிரி my shareholders comes and visit the company கையில வந்து வந்தீங்க வாங்க இந்த மாதிரி ப்ராஃபிட் நல்லா வந்து they cannot do that. It should be how it should be done, legally distributed. Profits available for dividend to shareholders, please highlight. It's not everything. If only if profits available, yes, you give it as dividend to the shareholders. So when you talk about profits, probably I might have discussed this a bit earlier, but I'll try to recall. A percentage of profits has to be given to the employees. Okay. What do you call this as? Bonus. Okay. Available surplus, allocable surplus, as per the payment of bonus act. Probably நீங்க salaries-ல படிச்சிருப்பீங்க. Follow as per the payment of bonus act. Whereas if you talk about a percentage of profit given to the management, it's called as managerial remuneration. 11% of the profits has to be given to the managerial remuneration. 11% of net profit. Okay. Whereas if you talk about bonus to the employees, it's 8.33% to 20%, not of net profit. It will be as allocable surplus. Profit land available surplus, allocable surplus, allocable surplus with 8.33% to maximum 20%. If you talk about giving percentage of profit, it's not talking about giving percentage, it's mandatory. First case, this case, and third case. This case is mandated by the law that you have to give. Here, the managerial remuneration is not mandated by law. Probably, even though there is no profit, you can give it. That's different. But profit, see, the term itself is 11% of net profit. But you need to have net profit, then you can give it. If you're not gaining any profit in this financial year, but still you want to give the remuneration to the managers, then you have to get permission from the shareholders. Okay. So third case, giving percentage to the what debentures and preference shareholders because it's mandated. Debenture holders can interest करनो, preference shareholders के dividend करनो. It's mandated by law. Yes, you call here as dividend or interest. Okay, for debentures and debenture holders and preference shareholders. Yes, எல்லாமே மிச்சம் மீதி இருந்து ப்ளீஸ் நோட் மை வேர்ட்ஸ் எல்லாமே மிச்சம் மீதி இருந்து ஓகே சர்ப்ளஸ் இருந்து அது மட்டும் இல்லாம போர்ட் ஆஃப் டைரக்டர்ஸ் ஓகே இந்த பணம் வந்து நம்மளுக்கு ஃபியூச்சர்ல தேவைப்பட்டாலும் ஒரு பார்ட் ஷேர் பண்ணிக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு டைரக்டர்ஸ் நினைச்சாங்கன்னா டைரக்டர் இஸ் நாட் டாக்கிங் அபவுட் இன் சிங்குலர் ஃபார்ம் ஐம் டாக்கிங் அபவுட் த கலெக்டிவ் பாடி போர்ட் ஆஃப் டைரக்டர்ஸ் if everybody unanimously or majority of the directors says okay this time will give the dividend அவங்க மனசுல சொன்னா நமக்கு okay so that much strength is given for the directors that much power is given to the directors. Okay, so if the percentage is allotted, that's why we call this as appropriation of profit to the equity shareholders, then we'll call this term as dividend. So when we talk about dividend, this is related to two persons. One is who is holding the equity shares, another who is holding the preference shares. But preference shares, if it is cumulative preference shares, it's mandated by law that you have to give it. If கொடுக்கல என்ன ஆகும் cumulative கொடுக்கல என்ன ஆகும் arrears of dividend will make it to give the right to vote in the meetings. Like they'll be treated because right to vote in the meetings are yaar kamna equity shareholders kano preferred shareholders illa. Okay, but then you're not giving dividend, which is your liability to give, even though not declared, you have to give it. And a preference shares kodtale dividend kodtano. If you're not giving it, means it becomes automatically the liability comes as what? You have to give the right to vote. அப்ப யார் அடி வாங்குவாங்க equity shareholders. equity shareholders சண்டை போடுவாங்கல்ல ஏன் ரைட் லா படி கொடுக்கணும் தான் அப்ப என்ன ஆகும் ப்ராப்ளம். Okay, so that's why when you go for first time issuing preference share, they will ask the equity shareholders, they will get the resolution passed by the equity shareholders, then only they do it. வேறாக்கெல்லாம் கொடுக்க முடியாது ஏன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ப்ரிஃபரன்ஸ் அவங்களுக்கு தரும். ஒன்ஸ் அவங்க வந்து ரைட் டு ஓட்ல வந்துட்டாங்கன்னா கையில பிடிக்கவே முடியாது அவங்கள. ஓகே okay distribution of dividends. So all profits are not divisible profits. Please highlight these are all very important lines. Wherever it's important, I'll go word by word. It is necessary to go word by word. Okay. Sometimes they will not update parallel, so you will understand. Okay. So dividend is a reward to a shareholder, a share of the after-tax profit, a right and not an obligation. Please highlight. It's a right once it is declared. Please, once it is declared, it's your right. It's distributed with respect to the number and class of shares held by them because we have equity shares with respect to differential class. What do you mean by differential class? Different dividend or different voting rights, whatever it means. Board of directors decides, recommends probably what? Amount and timing with respect to current earnings, probably current profit of reserves, which is the past earnings. Okay. It requires shareholders' approval, only the final dividend. We generally talk about final dividend, interim dividend full unit, even though it's a common word dividend, full unit is covering with respect to final dividend. எல்லாமே முடிச்சுட்டு includes final interim dividend ஒரு line add பண்ணிடுவோம் அதனால before. Okay. Profit that shares with the shareholders declared out of profit. If declared in absence, directors own pocket. No, please highlight. If there is no profit, then who is going to give the dividend? If directors own pocket money, which means what? Personal life. Own pocket money means what? Personal life. It is distributed of company's earnings. It inherits from the company, not from the act. Probably MOA, AOA, it only regulates. Okay. Inherits from the company, is not from the act, is not because of MOA, it's not because of AOA, which means what? This is not regulating. What does it mean? Even though the company is having profit, okay, the company will not give dividend. How much common? Even though the company is having a profit, it will not give dividend. Okay. Only if the company thinks it can give it. Other inherits from the company. How the company can think? Company does have a brain. Okay. Brain yaar, company or brain, board of directors. If board of directors think, okay, obviously the dividend will be. Okay. See, not from the act says or and skip the dividend provision. MOS is okay, it's fine. In case if you are issuing preference shares, it will be mentioned in the object clause. Sorry, not object clause, capital clause. AOA, it will tell what type of dividend and how it has to be given. That's all regulates. Okay. But who has to give? Inherited from the company. Right to claim arises only after declared, not for interim dividend. If we are all discussing with respect to final dividend, only one point differs from interim. Another. அங்க வந்து டைரக்ட் டிக்ளரேஷன் போர்ட் ஆஃப் டைரக்டர்ஸ் பண்ணலாம். இங்க வந்து டிக்ளரேஷன் பண்ண முடியாது. ரெக்கமெண்ட் தான் பண்ணலாம். ப்ரொபோஸ் டிவிடெண்ட் தான் போடுவோம். Not the dividend, probably distribution of discount coupons you should not consider. This is dividend. Waiver of right to receive dividend is not there. Okay, probably articles of association fully or part depends on, usually that is not there. Okay, நீங்க கேட்க முடியாது. Okay, probably if you are declaring particular shares like class A, class B, then it's fine. Declared dividend, yes, please highlight this often repeated question. Declared dividend is a debt to a company and no revocation is possible. Okay. Dividend warrant, yes, you can use to encash it. And unpaid dividend, what do you mean by unpaid dividend? Paid dividend விட unpaid dividend தான் பயங்கர காஸ்ட்லி. ஏன்னு சொல்றேன் வரும்போது. Dividend not paid or dividend not claimed will be named as what? Unpaid dividend. And warrant is given. What warrant? Dividend warrant is given but not in cash. That's also considered as unpaid dividend. Company will be saying, நாங்க பே பண்றோம் தான் சொன்னோம், அவன் யாருன்னே தெரியல, நாங்க ட்ரேஸ் பண்றோம், you cannot find it, you cannot trace a person, and we are giving the continuous intimation to them. They are not coming and referring to us, they are not coming and approaching to us. What will do? ஆனாலும், see the word here is not paid. It's not paid or unpaid. You cannot question the company. What the company says, see, we are doing as per the procedures. Okay, so unpaid dividend, dividend not paid or claimed, and warrant not in cash. All the three cases. Okay. See, dividend not paid, which means what? Company's point of view. Dividend pay பண்ணிட்டு அக்கௌண்ட்ல போனோம்னா not claimed. Claimed இருக்கணும்ல, probably nowadays we have this complete direct net transaction. Directly being transferred from the company's account to the beneficial owner's account. Okay. Warrant not in cash also. We are giving dividend one, it's not in cash. So there is a comparison table between interest and dividend. You can just go through. I'll go for definition. Follows from Companies Act, Clause 35 of Section 2. Please make a note, it includes interim dividend also. When we talk about dividend, we have to talk about the Secretarial Standard 3. You know that accounting standard, AS, Cost Accounting Standards, CAS. AS is from ICAI Institute. Cost Accounting Standard is ICAI, Cost and Management Accountant of India. And SS is Secretarial Standard from Company Secretaries. So, SS3 talks about distribution of any sums, please highlight. Distribution of any sums to members out of where? Profits. And wherever permitted, because when you use the word dividend, it says appropriation of profit, distribution of profit. If it is not current profit, then past years. Past years means what? Reserves. Not all reserves. What reserves? Each and every word is important part. Any sums to members out of profits. Profit வந்து ஏதாவது ஒரு அமௌண்ட் கொடுத்தா கூட அது என்ன பேர் வைக்கிறாங்க? டிவிடெண்ட் தான் பேர் வைக்கிறாங்க. Okay, out of current year profit or wherever permitted out of free reserves. இல்ல உங்களுக்கு பணம் எக்ஸ்ட்ராவா இருக்கு, instead of giving dividend, what you can do is you can go for what is that? Reduction of share capital. Extra work, see, probably I'll give a small recall of that. 10 rupees is a face value. Okay, 7 rupees paid, 3 rupees unpaid. In the body profit, instead of giving us dividend, okay, dividend is revenue in nature. Instead of giving us dividend, what I'm planning to do is, I'm planning to reduce 1 rupee capital value. Which means what? 7 rupees paid is fine. Instead of 3 rupees, I'm not going to collect 3 rupees from you. 2 rupees. Enough. See, company உங்ககிட்ட பணம் வாங்கிச்சு business பண்றதுக்கு. Business பண்றது எக்ஸ்ட்ரா பணம் கேட்போம். So, see, this 1 rupee is a liability, capital in nature. அதை ரெடியூஸ் பண்ண சந்தோஷம் தானே. ஆனா அதுவும் சில பேருக்கு சந்தோஷமா இருக்காது. The reason is I want to see money. Okay, இந்த 1 rupee இன்னைக்கு கேட்க போறது இல்ல, 4-5 வருஷம் பிறகு கேட்பான், இல்ல 1 year பிறகு கேட்பான். அப்ப இப்ப பணம் வேணும்ல, கரெக்ட் தானே? Okay, கரெக்ட் தானே? Fine. Free reserves. See, when we say free reserves, so obviously you know what is a free reserve. First topic la நம்ம discuss பண்ணிட்டா, I'm not going line by line. Yes, I go for types. Based on time, I can say final dividend, interim dividend, Final dividend, please highlight, it's recommended by the board of directors and declared by members at AGM. Appo AGM la illana, please raise a question. If it is not in AGM, can we raise it and can we pass it in AGM? No, there's no such provision. Declare பண்ணோம்னா AGM ல பண்ணுங்க. அப்படி இல்லைன்னா அது what to do it? See, the one which is being declared at AGM is what is called as the final dividend. You have to please understand. In case final dividend issue பண்ற அளவுக்கு அந்த year profit காமிக்கல, you don't want to issue it. Okay, next quarterly பார்த்துக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க. அப்போ next quarterல results வந்த பிறகு you need not go for conducting EGM, not necessary. That provision clearly says. Only when you say final dividend, which has to be declared in the AGM, it has to be passed by the members' resolution. If not, no issues. It will be called as what? Between the two AGMs, if any company wants to go for declaring, it can be declared directly by the board of directors. Okay, and follow the same provision. Please highlight. Follow the same provision as final dividend. Other than same provision, other than content and how you're going to distribute and the legal procedure of distribution is. And basis of shares. But what actually happens is when you go for interim dividend, it has to be given in the board of directors report. Directors report mention what's the interim dividend given. Probably just remember an example. This year we are planning for 5 rupees dividend, final dividend. Okay. But what happens is if I want to give us a final dividend, I have to give it then. AGM conduct pannabodu. So what I'm planning is why I need to give 5 rupees as a full amount during AGM as final dividend. Let me give 1 rupee now. 1 rupee now. Then 3 rupees as final dividend in the AGM. அப்போ இப்போதைக்கு ஷேர் ஹோல்டர்ஸ்க்கு 2 ரூபாய் கொடுத்தா சந்தோஷம் தானே. சரி 2 ரூபாய்க்கு 40% தான். Out of 5 I'm talking. 2 ரூபாய்க்கு 40% தானே. இப்போ 40% கொடுத்தா சந்தோஷம் தானே. அப்படின்னு நினைச்சா எஸ் கொடுக்கலாம் and you can adjust with the last. Because ultimately what is your aim? To give 5 rupees. You can adjust it. And whatever you do, you have to give it in director's report. Okay. On the basis of shares, if we classify, yes, on the basis of preference shares, you can do it. And again, we can talk about cumulative and non-cumulative preference shares. When we talk about cumulative preference shares, obviously, we'll cumulate the dividend in case of arrears. Okay, else we'll have to go for voting rights. On the basis of equity shares, yes, we have discussed. Glance please. Declaration of dividend follows from section 123. So you'll not forget, right? Okay. Etana section 123. It's not 123, 123. Section 51 says, pay dividend, please highlight in proportion to the amount paid up on each share if AOA authorizes. Okay. Usually it will be given as percentage on nominal value. That is the face value. In the articles of association, see, myself shareholder A, out of that 10 rupees, I have paid 7 rupees and 3 rupees unpaid. Your shareholder B, 10 rupees, out of 10 you have completely paid 10, which is zero liability. உங்களுக்கு the same dividend. அதனால என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா they'll be dividing the class of shares separately and called money will be done separately. Calling of the share money will be done separately. SS3 says declared on recommendation of the board of directors at board meeting. Not only that, we have to follow SEBI's LODR regulation. See, actually, your topic in your chapter material, even though when you talk about dividend from the Companies Act, they are following rules. Okay. Apart from that, these things are necessary to understand dividend in a better way. So, it looks like a lengthy topic because I have included SS3, Secretary Standard 3, and also I have included SEBI's LODR regulation. Okay, for listed company, we have to follow. Another topic ஒரு சில இடத்துல ரொம்ப பெருசா இருக்கும் பட் இந்த டாபிக்ஸ் எல்லாம் இன்க்ளூட் பண்ண போது உங்களுக்கு அந்த கம்ப்ளீட்னஸ் கிடைக்கும் தட்ஸ் வை ஓகே நீட் நாட் பி எக்ஸ்ட்ரா ஒரு 20-25% தான் லேர்ன் பண்ண போறீங்க ஓகே இட்ஸ் நாட் கோயிங் டு ஓவர்லோட் யூ டெஃபினெட்லி சேம் ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸ் பட் ஆஸ் பர் LODR had follow if you are not okay with this numbering leave it not necessary just for understanding sake I have included okay so following the SEBI's LODR regulation 2015 if it is a listed company they have to declare and disclose as per the share basis only. Yes, we go for providing the dividend from where? Sources of dividend from where? Profits related to current year profit after providing depreciation. Please make a note. Depreciation is a tangible formula. No. After providing depreciation, only have to go for current year's profit. In case it's previous year profit means after providing depreciation and check whether anything is undistributed. And yes, not only out of current years and previous year, we can both combine partially this one, partially that. Profit கம்மியா தான் இருக்கு, but resource மிச்சமா இருக்கு, வச்சுட்டு என்ன பண்ண போறோம்? We will give it. Okay. In computation, you should not include, you have to exclude. If included, you have to exclude unrealized gains, notional gains. You will be revaluing the asset. It looks like you have got some money extra. No, it's not proper money you have received. Okay. And changes in carrying amount of assets and liability on measurement fair values. Next is from money. First one, another out of profits. Not only that, from the money where central government or state government in pursuance of guarantee they will be giving. Now the guarantee they'll be completely supporting the country to give the dividend. So in that case, you can do it. Okay. So no declaration of dividend, but if default arises, you cannot give it. Default in which case? There is a redemption pending with respect to debentures. And you have not created debenture redemption reserve, it becomes a problem, which means what? You have to do that first. ஏன்னா அங்க வந்து உங்களுக்கு யாரு debt கொடுத்தாங்க இல்லையா? With respect to redemption preference shares, you have to create what? CRR, capital redemption reserve. Payment of current years and previous years declared a dividend. Already ஏற்கனவே declare பண்ண dividend மிச்சம் இருக்குல்ல, அதுக்கு இது முடியும் அப்படின்னு கேட்பாங்க. And repayment of term loan, probably இந்த deposits எல்லாமே இருக்குது. Okay. So first, what's the first heading here? What's the first heading here? Sources of dividend. Under sources of dividend, we have two sources. One is from profit and another one with respect to guarantee given by central or state government, where while giving this guarantee, we have to check whether if anything is pending from this side. Next, we'll go for second heading. Transfer percentage of profits to reserve. Probably if you are talking about the current year's profit, you have to transfer this to the reserve before declaring the dividend. Okay. Third heading, in case important, very 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 important, எத்தனை ஸ்டார் வேணா போட்டுக்கோங்க, நீங்க வேணா அந்த பார்டர் எல்லாம் போட்டு டெக்கரேட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க, அந்த அளவுக்கு important. Because usually we think dividend is, see, the nature of dividend is the formation of profit, அது டவுட்டே இல்ல. But what happens here? When you talk about dividend, even though there is no profit or inadequate profit is there, yes, you can declare it. கேட்கலாம், கரெக்டான ப்ராஃபிட் எப்படி இருக்கலாம், previous year profits இருக்குல்ல, பண்ணுங்க. If previous year profits are accumulated and it is being transferred to free reserve, means yes, you can do it. That's why most of the companies what they do is, இந்த வருஷம் அதிகமா ப்ராஃபிட் வந்தோம்னா அதிகமா டிவிடெண்ட் கொடுத்துட மாட்டாங்க. போன இயர்ஸோட ப்ராஃபிட் எல்லாம் பூல் பண்ணி வேணா கொடுத்துருங்க. Okay, they will not usually give the higher amount as dividend. It's not safe for the company because இப்போ கம்பெனி okay, next 2 years company எப்படி இருக்கும் தெரியல. You see, the future is predicted and we forecast. Ups and down is there, but still, பணம் வரலாம், pandemic timeல company close ஆகிற மாதிரி போயிடாது அதுல. So nothing in our hands. It's still for the conservative system is over the conservative point. Okay. But you have to follow the rules, conditions first. How much you can give? Rate of dividend. Previous years dividend கொடுத்துட்டு வரீங்கல்ல, go for the 3 previous years dividend rate and take the average. So for 1 year you have paid 10%. For 1 year you have paid 12%. 1 year you have paid 8%. Add all, divide by 3. What's the value? 10% you can give it this year. Which means 10% or less than that. Not exceeding 10%. Second, when you're drawing this, okay, 10% கொடுத்தலாம் அப்படின்னு நினைச்சீங்கன்னா எங்க தரீங்க, previous profit இருக்கணும், அவ்வளவு புரியுதா? Please try to understand. It's very important. First point says you should not exceed this 10%. See, it's not 10%. I am giving the example as 10%. What percentage you should not exceed? Average of the previous 3 years dividend rate. Dividend rate is in percentage. What's the second point says? It says with respect to calculation purpose, not more than not exceeding 10%. But what happens is, அவ்வளவு பணம் இருக்கணும் reserve. So from the accumulated profit, how much you can withdraw? Because probably again in future you might be needing this money. So how much you can withdraw is 10% of, which means what usually we say 1/10 of the value, 1/10 of paid up capital plus free reserves as per the latest ratios. Second point. First, when you go for drawing that amount, you have to utilize this amount not for directly paying the dividend. For what? If any losses are there, you have to set up the losses first. Okay. Dividend holders interest கொடுத்துருக்கீங்களான்னு பாருங்க, preference shareholders கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, redeem பண்ணி எல்லாமே பார்த்து எல்லா losses set off பண்ணிட்டு then what you can do? The remaining only can pay the dividend. Now tell me, is it possible for you to give 10% dividend this year? You cannot say yes or no. It becomes questionable. இப்போ First point மட்டும் நீங்க அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணீங்கன்னா it looks like okay 10% கொடுத்துருந்தாலும் ஆன்சர் பண்ணிடக்கூடாது. கொஞ்சம் நோட் பண்ணுங்க. You have to check the second point. Second point ஓட continuation third point. After that only you have to go for first point. Please, it's very important. Note, balance of reserves not to fall below 15% of paid up capital. Please highlight. After withdrawing, balance of the reserves should not fall below how much? 15%. You may ask me, ma'am, 1/10 தானே எடுத்தோம். Let me clean the board. You may ask me, just we have drawn how much? 1/10 of the value. 1/10 of what? Paid up capital plus free reserve. But what they say here, how much the reserves has to be maintained after withdrawal? 15% of the paid up capital. அப்போ கிட்டத்தட்ட 1, 2, 3, 4 conditions. And it's not applicable for ground account. Okay, so almost like 4 conditions you have to follow. Okay, let me continue. D. Only from free reserves, no specific reserves, only from free reserves. E. Declaration of dividend can be set off by previous losses and depreciation against the profit of the company for the current year. Yes, can do it. F. This is not normal part. Okay. Manner of providing depreciation. See, we say after providing for depreciation. How we are going to provide for depreciation? No worries. Okay. You are not still CS. Okay. I'm not demotivating you. Exam படிக்கிறது ஈஸின்னு சொல்லுவோம். Once you become professional, it's going to be a tough job for you. ஏன்னா நீங்க பயங்கரமா இன்டர்பிரேட் பண்ணுவீங்க. ஓகே. இங்க வந்து எப்படிங்க பண்ணணும்? ஒன்றும் இல்லை. ஷெட்யூல் 2 ஃபாலோ பண்ணுங்க. நீங்க ஷெட்யூல் 2 எழுதிருக்கீங்களான்னு எக்ஸாம்ல பார்ப்பாங்க. ஈஸியா கஷ்டமா சொல்லுங்க. Okay. Follow schedule 2 of that. How are you going to provide the depreciation? No worries. Follow schedule 2. Okay. G. Declaration of interim dividend. Yes. Out of surplus in profit and loss account, profits of the financial year or profit of the financial year till the quarter ending. Because you're talking about interim dividend, right? So, another quarter முடிஞ்சதுக்கு பார்க்கலாம். And yes, please make a note of this. Rate of dividend should not exceed average of the 3 previous years dividend rate. Like we did for absence of profit, right? See, 3 வருஷத்தோட ப்ராஃபிட்டை வச்சு நீங்க டிவிடெண்ட் கால்குலேட் பண்ணி தரீங்க. இன்னும் 9 மாசம் பெண்டிங் இருக்கு. Yes, obviously that's a genuine question தானே. Still, the remaining 9 months are there. We don't know how far the profit will generate. இல்லங்க நாங்க வந்து கம்பெனி ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணதுக்கு ப்ராஃபிட் கொடுத்துட்டே இருக்கிறதுக்கு லாஸ் ஆனது பரவாயில்ல வச்சுக்கோங்க. இப்போதைக்கு கொடுங்க. Please try to understand. Okay. Yes, SS3 says, Board of Directors, they will consider the financial reports, they will satisfy the position of the company, they will check whether, before giving the interim dividend, they will check whether the full year's depreciation will begin. Please highlight. Everywhere we say providing after depreciation, okay, which means depreciation to be provided. Everything is right. But I am talking about this quarter's profit is being checked and the dividend is given. But what happened? Is it possible for you to provide full year's depreciation? முடிஞ்சா போடுங்க இல்லனா டவுட்டா வச்சிடுங்க. Okay, இதோ யாரோட ஜாப் again we are exam boys, it's not our job. யாரோட ஜாப் more of the job. Okay, make yourself comfortable. Tax including deferred tax is other anticipated loss. Yes, this is actually a challenging law. What do you mean by anticipated loss? தெரியாது. If any cases contingency சொல்லுவோம். நீங்க படிச்சிருப்பீங்க கண்டிப்பா contingency cases. Probably any what I don't know in which accounting standards it falls. IAF இருக்கா? Indian accounting standards படிக்கிறீங்களா? இல்ல. Okay, we'll talk about contingencies, how we are going to provide for bad debts. இதெல்லாமே தெரியாது. In case any case proceedings are going, okay, in court of law. ஏதாவது law court of lawல போயிட்டு இருக்கு case proceedings. அப்போ வந்து நம்ம சைட்ல ஃபேவரா வரலனா we have to pay the compensation. It's a loss. Okay, actually other anticipated loss you have to follow the accounting standard and you have to check how probable it is. Probably will lose சொன்னா எவ்வளவு ப்ராபபிலிட்டி லெஸ்ஸா இருந்தாலும் கொஞ்சம் செக் பண்ண சொல்லுவாங்க. ஓகே, லைக் ஈவன் 20% தான் லூஸ் பண்றதுக்கு சான்ஸ் இருக்கு. 20% லூஸ் பண்ணா லாஸ் தான் ஆகும். இல்ல 90% வின் பண்ணிடுவோம். 10% லாஸ் தானே. இது பாசிட்டிவ் ஆங்கிள் பேசுற மாதிரி. Even though it's a positive angle, 90%, 10% you're talking about loss. So you have to check other anticipated losses. Dividend for preference will go for interim dividend. Yes, not to be issued in case of loss or inadequacy of profit. Please highlight. If it is a final dividend, then it's fine. But when we talk about the interim dividend, we are not yet over the complete financial year. So you have to wait. We have to check whether you can make up everything. Then only you can give it. In case there is no profit or there is no profit, inadequate profit, then you cannot do it. Okay, continuing. H point follows from 123 subsection 4. Deposit in special account of a scheduled bank. Okay. Includes interim dividend also. Within how many days? Within 5 days. 5 days of what? conducted AGM. AGM conduct பண்ணிருப்பீங்கல்ல. So this is the date you have conducted AGM. Okay. From this 5 days கணக்கு வச்சுக்கோங்க. Within 5 days you have to deposit as a special account. Why do you mean this is a special account? Probably account transfer தான் நடந்திருக்கும். But separate account will be created in this purpose, and this account will be named as probably dividend account of இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும். Account of ABC Company Limited. இந்த மாதிரி account name இந்த மாதிரி போட்டுருவாங்க. This is mandatory for the company. Okay. And it's not applicable for government company. It holds entire share capital. Please highlight. Usually government company, what do you mean by government company? Majority of the shares is held by the government, central or state or whatever. But here they say, even though you are a government company, if you are holding a major nominal amount of the share, that is okay. But here we are saying this provision is not applicable if the government is holding the entire share capital. Public sector, I don't know that. Public sector undertakes 100% government. See, எல்லாமே 100% government இருக்கணும்னு அவசியம். Monopoly இருக்கும்ல. Right ways 100% இல்ல. அவங்கலாம் So if it holds entire share capital, 100% of the share capital is held by government, it's not applicable. Okay, 99.99% தான் hold பண்ணிருக்கு. அப்போ 1% யாரா வச்சிருக்காங்க. Obviously what you have to do, you have to follow this provision. Within 5 days you have to transfer to them. Okay. Usually will not use the word as transfer. Please remember you have to deposit. Okay. So what this SS3 says is deposit within 5 days and pay within 30 days. Okay. Intervening holidays has to be included. Now Saturdays இருந்துச்சுங்க நவராத்திரி லீவ் 10 நாள். Okay. அதெல்லாம் நாங்க ஒத்துக்க மாட்டோம். Intervening holidays has to be included. Then 8th point, to whom you have to pay? Only to the registered shareholder, which means those who are registered and the records are there in the register of members. Okay. Pay to the registered shareholders or to the banker to his order or pay in cash. உங்க கையில வந்தா கொடுக்குறாங்க இல்ல லெஃப்ட்ல ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணி. And Nidhi company, they will credit in members. Yeah, please make a note. Nidhi company, they can credit in members account if not claimed within 30 days from the date of declaration. Okay. So within 30 days, you have to get it. They will be transferring. And if anybody is not claiming that amount, now Nidhi company, this is only for Nidhi company, they can credit direct to the members account. Okay. Eighth point, payment of dividend. Yes, we have already discussed. Deposit in 5 days. In schedule a separate bank account. Pay within 30 days. Includes intervening holidays also. Eighth point, yes, you can capitalize the profit. Okay. See, we have already discussed the provisions of bonus act. When you talk about bonus, you should not say this as in lieu of dividend. Now, bonus shares என்ன சொல்ல முடியாது. என்ன சொல்லக்கூடாது. Dividend பதிலா in lieu of dividend சொல்லக்கூடாது. Okay, this is capitalization, that is revenue. So when you want to capitalize the profit, yes, you can capitalize. You can go for issuing the bonus shares, but also you can give the dividend. Okay, dividend பதிலா இது கொடுத்துட்டோம். இது கொடுத்தனால dividend கொடுக்கல. அந்த மாதிரி சொல்லவே கூடாது. Okay, இது கொடுக்கணும் கொடுங்க, அது கொடுக்கணும் கொடுங்க. Okay. So this is about revenue side, that is about capital side. Does not affect issue of fully paid up bonus shares, paying up any unpaid up. Okay. Sometimes it happens like unpaid up. நம்ம இது பார்த்தோம் இல்லையா reduction of share capital, paying the unpaid amount. That also can be done. Paying of unpaid amount or issuing the fully paid bonus shares and all comes under capital case. That's what we can use capitalization. Health point, mode of payment is cash, check, warrant, e-mode. Most of the time, this is not used. Usually, it goes in e-mode. Left transaction the mode, and it becomes one of the KYC part. If you are holding shares in any account, means the deposit is not a company. The depositor will send a mail saying that your case KYC is pending. Okay, on KYC pending, now you're not giving the account details and all. If your account details are not updated over there, Aadhaar கூட விட்டுருங்க PAN தான் வேணும். ஏன்னா ஐடிக்கு தான் போகுது. Okay, PAN and account details has to be good. PAN, mail ID, account details. இந்த மூணுமே தரலன்னா obviously வந்து உங்களுக்கு பணம் வராது. பணம் வரலன்னா என்ன ஆகும்? IEPF ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆயிடும். கவர்மெண்ட் கையில போயிடுச்சுன்னா நீங்க கவர்மெண்ட் கிட்ட இருந்து கேட்டு வாங்கிக்கணும். கம்பெனிக்கும் ஒன்றும் சம்மந்தம் இல்லை. So this is how it be done. If not claimed or இந்த உரிமை கொண்டாடுன்னு சொல்றோம் அந்த மாதிரி நீங்க பண்ணலன்னா 7 years டைம் இருக்கு. 7 years தான் டைம் இருக்கே மேம் நீ சொன்னீங்கன்னா 7 years is not a small, very little time. Within the 7 years you're not claiming any amount now. The dividend amount, not only dividend amount, including the shares which you hold, it will be transferred to IEPF fund, Investors Education and Protection Fund. Okay. Once it is being transferred to Investor Education and Protection Fund now, which one? Dividend and including the shares now, obviously the intimation will be sent to the shareholder. What the shareholder can do is, shareholder cannot, shareholder will not have any right to the company. Shareholder has to go claim from whom? IEPF. IEPF website is taniya irukkum. You can find it as iepf.gov.in. இங்க போயிட்டு நம்ம claim பண்ணோம். கிளைம் பண்ண பிறகு வாட் ஐஇபிஎஃப் will do is IEPF will ask the company, இந்த மாதிரி உங்க கம்பெனில ஷேர் வச்சிருக்காங்க நீங்க போட்டிருக்காங்களே, ஆமா வச்சிருக்காங்களா? உடனே எங்க சொல்லுவாங்க, ஆமா வச்சிருக்காங்க. யார் சொல்லுவாங்க? கம்பெனி. ஓகே, த்ரூ கம்ப்ளைன்ஸ் ஆஃபீஸர். Okay, usually the compliance officer will be the whole time company secretary. If there is no whole time company secretary, now one of the director authorized will be not authorized, will be designated with the position called as compliance officer. Okay, so it's a lengthy procedures. Mth point, non-applicable for declaration of payment with respect to if you have not paid the deposits. Is it clear, Vishal? So, it's proposed by board of directors and board meeting first. This is the first step. Actually, இதுக்கு முன்னாடி என்ன இருக்கும்னா, they'll be going for the financial statements, they'll check the position of the company, everything will be done. Then dividend will be declared in the general meeting. So this is one of the ordinary business. That will be transferred by the company in separate bank account. It's called an escrow account, a special account within 5 days. It has to be paid within 30 days of declaration. Please highlight. This is the date of AGM held. Okay. Within 5 days, what you are doing? You are transferring to a special account. Within 30 days means it starts from here to 30 days. ஏன்னா டேட் முக்கியம் நமக்கு. இங்க இருந்து 30 days எடுக்கக்கூடாது. From where the declaration of members given at the AGM, when the AGM was held at this time, இங்க இருந்து 30 days. So which means within this 5 days it has to be transferred, and totally from here you have to check for the 30 days. Okay, usually most of the time they say it has to be held within 30th September, right? Within 6 months of the close of the financial year. So 30th September landa 5 days vechukkonga. So first only 30 days in September. So first October, 2nd October, 3rd October, 4th October, 5th October. Exam எழுதும்போது கவுண்ட் பண்ணுங்க தப்பு. Okay, அதே மைன்யூட் கால்குலேஷன் பண்ணாதீங்க. Because usually we'll get problem with this 30, 31 வரும்போது ப்ராப்ளம் வரும். கொஞ்சம் கேர்ஃபுல்லா இருங்க. Ma'am, 30th September தானே மேம், இந்த மாதிரி ப்ராப்ளம் வரும் போது. In case I have hold the AGM on July 5th, what do you do? ஓகே, இல்ல ஆகஸ்ட் 5th, அப்ப அங்கிருந்து நீங்க கவுண்ட் பண்ணோம்ல, சோ கொஞ்சம் கேர் எடுத்துக்கோங்க. So 30th September means 5th October is 5 days within which what you have to open the bank account. Okay, then count for another 25 days. It says 30 days from where? From here. Okay, if you have transferred on 5th October, from here you have to count 25 days. இல்லனா விட்டுருங்க. இங்க தான AGM நடந்துச்சுல, நடந்துருக்கணும். இங்க இருந்து 30 days கவுண்ட் பண்ணுங்க. Because what they say is you need not wait for 5 days, right? Law provision says within 5 days you have to transfer. Within. அப்படின்னா the next day transfer. Most of the company will transfer the next day. அவங்க ரெடியா இருப்பாங்களே. இது ஷர்ரம் பண்றதானே. Immediately 1st October results will transfer. இங்க இருந்து 25 days calculate பண்ண தப்பு. புரியுதா? எங்க இருந்து calculate பண்ணோம்? On the date when the AGM was held or to be held in public. Okay, so that has to be taken note. Then unpaid or unclaimed dividend is transferred to, please highlight, the dividend account called as unpaid dividend account. So here within 5 days we open an account, right? What account is not named as dividend account of ABC Limited? Now, if it is not being transferred, if it is not paid within 30 days, means within the next 7 days. After this 30 days, next 7 days. Okay. இந்த டேட்ல நீங்க பே பண்ணிருக்கணும்ல, 30 days இல்ல, இங்க இருந்து 7 days. Okay, so from the date of meeting 37 days ago, am I right? 37 days. You open an account, which means you transfer this. Actually இங்க நம்ம open சொல்ல மாட்டோம், இங்க transferங்கிற term யூஸ் பண்ணுவோம். Unpaid dividend account. So how many accounts are created? Already in the balance sheet there will be something called as proposed dividend. Okay, that's a separate, it's not a separate bank account, it's a separate account maintained in the balance sheet. Okay, proposed dividend. Then within 5 days we have this account called as dividend account. Okay, then if not unpaid or unclaimed, we'll call this account called as unpaid dividend. Okay, so you have to transfer it. If not, if transferred, the unpaid or unclaimed dividend will be transferred to this unpaid dividend account with the next slide. If not transferred, not only that, you have to pay an interest at the rate of 12% to the date of default. Okay, after the settings. An unpaid or unclaimed dividend along interest accrued is transferred to Investor Education and Protection Fund IEPF. What and all is transferred for? Unpaid dividend. Unpaid dividend அக்கௌண்ட்ல இருக்கனால அது இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் கிரியேட் ஆயிருக்கும் ரொம்ப இல்ல பைசா கணக்குல இருக்கும் ஆனா அமௌண்ட் தான் ஓகே அண்ட் நாட் only that ஷேர்ஸ் அப்போ யூஸ்வலா வந்து அன்பெய்ட் வேல்யூ அண்ட் ஷேர்ஸ் ரெண்டு மாதிரி தெரியும் அன்பெய்ட் வேல்யூ அலாங் வித் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் அதாவது மூணு மாதிரி தெரியணும் உங்களுக்கு ஓகே அது ஆக்சுவலா மூணுன்னு சொல்லக்கூடாது அது சும்மா ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறதுக்காக சொல்றேன் வாட் ஆர் த அமௌண்ட் unpaid dividend next one shares even the shares has to be transferred when we talk about unpaid dividend it is where the bank account and the bank will give interest that also along with that it has to be transferred therefore after expiration of 7 years of transferring unpaid dividend account please highlight ஏஜென்ட் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணதுல இருந்து இல்ல டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிருப்பீங்கல்ல அந்த டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ண டேட்ல இருந்து எப்ப டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிருப்பீங்க when did you transfer within 7 days okay within 7 days means probably 32nd day itself what I might have done I might have within the 7 days 32nd day நான் என்ன பண்ணிருப்பேன் transfer பண்ணிருப்பேன் from this 32nd day I have to go for 7 years okay so 7 years ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா then automatically will be going for this IEPF. Okay, so let us now continue with section 124. So section 123 is completely in a detailed manner. A, B, C, la பார்த்தோம்ல detailed manner. 124 is particularly dealing with unpaid dividend account. Okay, so special account is all repetition சொல்லிப்பாங்க. Open with the company in any scheduled manner. Says 1. Okay, subsection 1. How you have to open it? Unpaid dividend account of the company, whatever private or public. What do you have to transfer? Not paid, that is unpaid or unclaimed dividend within how many days? Okay, within 7 days from 30 days. Okay, apply for payment of money to whom? To the company by that person. Yes, you can apply it. Only if it goes to the IEPF, you have to directly apply to the government. Else you can directly apply to the company itself. And all these details will be on the website. Within 90 days of transfer to the unpaid account, all these details on the website, the statement, names, last known address, amount, website, everything will be provided. Okay. Effect of non-transfer is interest. இது வந்து கம்பெனியோட ஃபால்ட் அப்போ கம்பெனி என்ன பண்ணணும் you not call this as penalty money, you call this as interest money. It will be given for the rate of 12% per annum. Dividend and IEPF. So central government established this fund called as Investor Education and Protection Fund. The amount has to be credited is prescribed. நம்ம நினைக்கிற மாதிரி அந்த unpaid dividend and shares மொத்தம் இல்ல there is a lot of amount which has to be got credited. Okay. So we follow, there is a separate rules called as IEPF, Accounting Audit Transfer and Refund Rules. From that, if you follow the Rule 6, Sub-Rule 5, we will be following the complete cases of what? Either IEPF rules. Section 125 is talking about IEPF in a Companies Act. We are combining both. Okay. Shares, you have to follow as per 124 because you are transferring the dividend and also the shares. Okay. Resultant benefits. What is the resultant benefit? Interest. Unpaid dividend போட்டு வச்சிருந்தீங்களா 7 வருஷம் வந்ததுல்ல அப்போ 7 வருஷத்துக்கு dividend வந்திருக்கும்ல அந்த amount and grants, fees, charges, whatever is received by the authority, some from other sources. Yes, இது வரைக்கும் okay. இதுக்கு பிறகு பாருங்க some from other sources. Probably government may be saying இதுக்கு எல்லாமே வந்து pool பண்ணணும்ட்டு all income earned from, by the authority and related amounts as per the Banking Companies Act. Section B, as per acquisition and transfer of undertakings, as per acquisition of transfer of undertakings, 10B, this is subsection 3, there is no subsection here, as per SBI Act and SBI Subsidiary Act, everything. And all other sums collected by the authority as envisaged means what? As directed by the Act, not a part of the fund. Probably had to follow clause H2I, not a part of the fund, unless remained unclaimed and unpaid for a period of 7 years. Only after 7 years, it will be directly transferred to the IEPF. Okay, IEPF க்கு transfer ஆன பிறகு தான் அது யாரோட ஃபண்டா மாறுது IEPF ஃபண்டா மாறும். Okay. Yes, this is also an important heading. Earlier also important, this one also important. So நீங்க dividend headingல எங்க இதெல்லாம் வந்து யோசிக்காதீங்க. Dividendல one of the main heading. So following from subsection 3 of 125, utilization of IEPF. For what you can utilize? Fund create ஆயிடுச்சு எதுக்கெல்லாம் யூஸ் பண்ணலாம் okay for refunding what unclaimed dividends, mature debentures, mature deposits, application money due for return. Probably இது வந்து நீங்க அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிருப்பீங்க. இதெல்லாம் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆயிருக்கும். Unclaimed dividends, now discussed. You cannot talk about shares because we are talking about refund of money. Okay. Mature deposits. Okay. Mature. What do you mean by mature deposits? The company is ready to pay the repayment. Okay. But the depositor cannot be found, cannot be traced. இறந்து போயிட்டாங்க. இப்போ என்னோட பிரதருக்கு சொன்னல, ஆஃப்டர் இஸ் டெத் ஐ cannot directly rule out. ஐஇபிஎஃப்க்கு போயிடுச்சு, நல்லாவே எனக்கு தெரியும். பிகாஸ் 7 years over. ஐஇபிஎஃப்க்கு கட்டாயமா போயிடுச்சுன்னு தெரியும். பட் என்னால ஃபேஸ் பண்ணவே முடியல. வாட் ஐ டூ? இப்போ டெத் சர்டிஃபிகேட் தரணும், லீகல் ஹையர் சர்டிஃபிகேட் தரணும், ஆல் தீஸ் ப்ராசஸ் ஐ அம் ரெடி டு டூ இட், பட் ஐ டோன்ட் நோ ஹவு டு ட்ரேஸ் இட். அப்ப எனக்கு ப்ராப்ளம் தானே. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ட்ரேஸ் பண்ண, அப்ப டெபாசிட் பண்ண யாரே தெரியல, ஹவு தே வில் கிவ். Likewise, debenture holders and application money which is not been refunded. Okay, so that will be used. And yes, when you go for this term IEPF, what is this E stands for? Educating. That's why education. Bringing awareness. As I was telling, okay, knowledge இருக்கக்கூடாது. Which means knowledge இல்லாம இருக்கக்கூடாது. If you have the knowledge, you will be very keen on this. என்னென்ன பண்ணணும்னு தெரியும். So to bring awareness, and not only that, to give the protection to whom? The investors. That's why the name itself is Investor Education and Protection Fund. Distribution of any disgorged amount among eligible and identifiable applicants. Probably applicants means shareholders, debenture holders, deposit, those who have suffered loss, probably due to some wrong actions taken by any person or orders made by the court, whatever it is. Okay. Reimbursement of legal expenses, probably case போடுறாங்க, அதோட காஸ்ட்ல இதெல்லாம் தான் எடுத்துப்பாங்க. Okay. So class action suits by the members or the debenture holders or deposition and should be sanctioned by the tribunal. Incidental purposes related to whatever it is. இதெல்லாமே வந்து. So transfer to IEPF follows from subsection 5 and subsection 6. Subsection 5 says you have to transfer the money, the unpaid dividend money, and subsection 6 says not only money, shares also. Earlier provision வந்து money மட்டும் தான் இருந்தது, unpaid dividend money. Recently இதை ஆட் பண்ணாங்க. Recently 4-5 years before ஆட் பண்ணாங்க. Shares also has to be transferred. அது பிறகுதான் நிறைய பேருக்கு டென்ஷன் ஆகும். Okay. So fund money in unpaid dividend account along with the interest unclaimed or unpaid for 7 years. Please highlight. Within 7 days, you have to transfer to unpaid. Okay, it's still paid for remaining 7 years. Okay. Statement to the fund's administrative authority has to be given, and you have to give an evidence as a receipt. With respect to shares, money plus shares. So when we say transfer, along with this money, you're transferring the shares. That's why we usually say money and shares. In the name of IPF, it will be done. There is a form number called as IEPF4. Okay. And claimant has to follow the procedure and submit documents for claiming. That's why I was saying directly we will be going to the IEPF fund means we have to go this website, then go over there and apply as a claimant. IEPF authority இருக்காங்க இல்லையா, அவங்க வந்து கம்பெனி கிட்ட கேட்பாங்க. Company will give the details not to the person, to the IEPF, then it will be transferred. Okay. Okay, this offense and penalty. For company, it's 5 lakh to 25 lakhs. For officer, 1 lakh to 5 lakh. Then we'll go for procedure for transfer. Everything is online. It is remitted online. And this form we have to follow, which is called as one form, the very first form, IEPF 1. Within how many days? Within 30 days becoming due. After expiration of 7 years, after expiration of 7 years, there is a limit for that, right? The company is becoming liable. The company has no authority hereafter. The company is becoming liable, which means within 30 days of becoming due, they have to proceed. Okay. Transfer amount. If failed to file the statement, even if not in Excel statement, you have to file it. The form number is given by this one. First is you have to remit online. Remitting online, you have to give all the details, shares, etc. In which form? One. Okay. அதுக்கு பிறகு transfer the amount என்ன சொல்லணும்? In case if you're not filing the statement now, என்ன சொல்லணும்? IEPF 1A Excel template தர சொல்லுவாங்க. Okay. இப்ப எல்லாமே மாறிச்சு. Within 60 days of notification. May also be remitted by electronic fund transfer as by the central government. Okay. And the authority, what it will do is it will take to record. Enters the details in the record physically and electronically. Now it's most of the cases electronic only, and each company every year it's a mandated for them, and it will be considering on monthly basis. Probably you becoming a CA, definitely you have to go through all this. Okay, your role is accounting check abstract of receipts will be given by the designated bank monthly within 7 days. Okay, so maintain the record file in the same format with the supporting documents. All these you are giving to the IEPF authority and they are maintaining the documents okay. But உங்க சைட்ல டாக்குமெண்ட் சொல்லணும்ல அதே ஃபார்மேட்ல அப்படியே மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுங்கறான். Okay. And identification of unclaimed amount, whichever is earlier of 30 days of AGM or date of LGM to be held. Sorry, within 60 days. Okay. Or date of AGM to be held. எப்ப ஹெல்ட் பண்ணிக்கணும்? Within 6 months. Okay. And every year till the completion of 7 years period. 7 years period from where? After being transferred to the unpaid dividend account. Okay. And you have to furnish this format called as IEPF to and upload on his website. Okay, own website or authority specified website. And you have to give all these patterns. Okay. Shall I take over? Section 126, please make a note of this. Right to dividend. If you talk about right to dividend, it becomes one of the right. What's the right here? Right of the shareholders is provided. Right to dividend is one of the right to the shareholder if declared. Okay. Right shares and owner shares. இதெல்லாமே யாரோட ரைட் பா shareholders ஓட ரைட் if their name is there in the record. Okay. That's why we call them as registered shareholder. To be held in abeyance pending registration of transfer of shares. What we call this as abeyance pending now, probably A has transferred the shares to B. Actually, there will be something called as closure date to update this record. Register of members book update for the closure date. Usually, this date is 45 days in a year. You can close the records. Okay. You can close the records for 45 days as many number of times, but one time if you close it, it should not extend 30 days. Totally 45 days you can close it. You can close this books. What do you mean by close this books? I'm not talking about books of accounts. I'm talking about the record. இப்போ ஏ வந்து பிக்கு ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்றாருன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. இப்போ இந்த இதெல்லாம் கொஞ்சம் பழசாயிடுது. ஓகே, ஏன்னு சொல்றேன். ஏ வந்து பிக்கு ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன். இப்போ இமீடியட்டா நான் பண்ணிட்டு வரேன். என்னோட ரெக்கார்ட்ல மாத்திடுவேன். See, A is holding some 1000 shares. How much transferred? For example, he is transferring 800 shares. Now, who is the shareholder? A and B both are shareholder because he is not holding 1000, he is holding 200. Who are the shareholders? A and B. Who is the member? A alone. And in that column of the members group, it will be mentioned against the name of the member. It will mention as he is holding 1000 shares. And is now the dividend date. To whom I have to give the dividend date? For how much shares? Yeah, how much do I have to give? Only for 200 because so immediately what I have to do is I have to transfer or I have to make these adjustments in the register of members. Do you think it's possible? Lakhs and shareholders are there. Print out எடுத்தாலும் பேப்பர் பத்தாது அந்த அளவுக்கு ஷேர்ஹோல்டர்ஸ் இருக்காங்க. ரிலையன்ஸ் எல்லாம் எடுத்தீங்கன்னா அவ்வளவு பெருசு கம்பெனி. அப்போ என்ன தெரியுமா ஆகும்? இந்த அப்டேஷன்ஸ் நடந்துகிட்டே இருக்கும். So we will mention something called as closure date. Before that closure, it will be mentioned, will be posted in the website. It will be clearly the instructions will be given to the SEBI and all. You can go for the NSE website and BSE website. All the instructions will be given. They will be mentioning அந்த டேட்டுக்குள்ள யாரெல்லாம் ஷேர் வச்சுட்டாங்களோ அவங்களா டிவிடெண்ட் தருவோம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அப்போ அந்த க்ளோஷர் டேட்ல ஏதாவது டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருந்தா they will not update it. ஓகே, அதுக்காக டெய்லி உட்காந்து அப்டேட் பண்ணது இல்லை. They will have the date. The closure date updation. Totally how many days you can go for it? 45 days. Okay, 45 days in a year, but at a stretch you should not close for more than 30 days. Is it okay? நீ க்ளோஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்னா மேக்ஸிமம் 30 days போகக்கூடாது. மேக்ஸிமம் 30 days தான். Usually it will be like 7 or 10 days. அது மேல போக மாட்டான். Because if my company is planning for 2 or 3 interim dividend, along with final incomes as 4 னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஒரு 7-8 நாள்னாலும் வந்துருது. 25 days, 40 days cross ஆயிடுது. 10 days வச்சா 40 நாள் எங்க இருக்கு? 45 நாள் தான் இருக்கும். பத்தாது. Usually what they do is 7 to 10 days around. So most of the big companies, what they do is usually they go for 2 interim dividend and 1 final dividend. Most of the companies, very PSUs எல்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா 2 interim dividends and 1 final dividend. About 3 dividends, 3 times you have to close the books. And not only that, whether they are giving the final dividend or not, when they go for especially passing any resolution where shareholders resolution are important, they have to go for only the EGM. அதுக்கும் books close பண்ணுவேன். Not only they have the right to get the dividend, they also have the right to vote in the meetings. அப்போ dividend date க்ளோஸ் பண்ண மாதிரி இதுவும் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணும்ல. ஸோ அதனால வந்து யூஸ்வலா அவ்வளவு நாளும் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. மேக்ஸிமம் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு 7-8 around 7 or 8 days தான். Okay, so it's held in abeyance means it's pending. Probably if we talk about transmission also, A is no more. Who is the legal hire? B. இந்த பெண்டிங் இருக்கும். கொண்டு வந்துட்டு இருப்பாங்க. இப்ப என்ன டைரக்டர்ஸ்க்கு டவுட் வரும். இவங்க கொடுக்கறது உண்மையா? சி டெத் சர்டிஃபிகேட் ரெடி பண்ணது 1 hour ஆகும். கரெக்ட்டா? ஓகே. சோ திஸ் அகைன் ப்ராப்ளம். 2, 3 கேஸ் நாங்களே பார்த்திருக்கோம். டெத் சர்டிஃபிகேட் பார்த்தா நீங்க உடனே இதெல்லாம் பண்ண முடியாது. You had to check whether the death certificate is original or not. See now what is available in the website. போய் செக் பண்ணிருக்கீங்களா? பர்த் சர்டிஃபிகேட், டெத் சர்டிஃபிகேட் எப்படி? உயிரோட தான் மேம் இருக்கும். இப்ப எல்லாமே ஓகே கவர்னன்ஸ் தான் இட்ஸ் ஃபைன் பட் ஸ்டில் இந்த மாதிரி எல்லாம் ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்கும். ப்ராப்ளம் இன்னும் கொஞ்ச நாள் இந்த ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் மாறிடும். இன்னொரு 5-10 years totally will be changing. So abeyance pending registration of transfer of shares follows from section 126. There should be an instrument given, right? If it is a transmission, fine. Death certificate, legal hire certificate will do everything will be done. அவங்க எல்லாம் கேட்க மாட்டாங்க. நீ தான் போனாலும் கேட்க மாட்டாங்க. லீகல் ஹையர் உங்க பேர் இருக்குன்னா அவ்வளவுதான் முடிஞ்சது. பொண்ணு பையன் எல்லாம் ஓவர். But when it goes for transfer, see, they are dealing especially with what? Transfer. Transfer means they need to have a instrument of transfer. Okay. Instrument of transfer is delivered to the company and the shares not registered because it's held in abeyance, which means what? Not registered. Transfer the dividend to unpaid dividend account unless authorized by the registered holder in writing to the transferee. அவர் கிளியரா என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கணும்? எனக்கு டிவிடெண்ட் வேண்டாம், நீங்க டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணுங்கன்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல. Something has to be given in writing. It can be kept in abeyance any offer to right shares. See, it's not only dealing with dividend, it's also dealing with right shares and bonus shares. Okay, and issue of fully paid up bonus shares. So, in case even though they are asking any question related to dividend directly, please answer in all the 3 angles. கொஞ்சம் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. 126 ஏன்னா நீங்க ரைட் டு டிவிடெண்ட் வித் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் டு அபேயன்ஸ் பெண்டிங் ஆஃப் ஷேர்ஸ் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணோம்னா we have to discuss section 126. While you're talking about section 126, you cannot talk only about dividend, you have to talk even about right shares and bonus shares. Please don't forget, okay? Yes, can you please section 127, punishment for failure to distribute the dividends. Unpaid dividends or warrants not issued if declared, then it's punishable. Please obviously it's punishable. Within how many days? Within 30 days, we have to for distribution. What's the punishment for director? Imprisonment. See, so far we have talked about penalty only in terms of monetary. Note பண்ணிருக்கீங்களான்னு இல்ல. Company இவ்வளோ, officer இவ்வளோ. இது தவிர severe caseல we'll go for 447 criminal liability. Open statement directly ஒரு section number சொல்லி சொல்ற provision இருந்தாலும். So very important provision this. So for imprisonment 2 years, 5,000 rupees per day if continuous simple interest at 18% per annum. Exception, probably because of operation of law we cannot do it. What do you mean by operation of law? Transmission. Okay. நாங்க dividend இதெல்லாம் கொடுத்துட்டோம். What we have a procedure for everything. See, many has received the dividend also. But what happened is because of a death case, they have given the the death certificate and legal hire, and we cannot execute that. அப்போ அது கொஞ்சம் பெண்டிங் வைக்கணும்ல இல்ல அவங்க. So that may be a problem. So operation of law cannot comply for the shareholders direction. The shareholder what they will do is either you can transfer or by order இருக்கும். இப்போ holding in demat shares. Okay. If you are holding as physical share means you will be giving a bank account detail, you will be directly credited to the account or they'll be giving a check or dividend warrant, whatever it is. If it is a demat share, you are not the owner. You know that? Discuss பண்ணிருக்கோம். You are not the owner. You are actually a beneficial owner. You are not the owner. Whom do you call as owner? If your name is there in the register of members book, whose name will be there in the register of members book? NSDL and CDSL. ஏன்னா அவங்க தான் மெயின் நமக்கு தான் அவங்களோட பேர் இருக்கு. அப்ப நம்ம ஒண்ணுமே இல்லையா? லீகல் ஓனர் இல்ல, ஆனா உங்களுக்காக வச்சிருக்காங்க பெனிஃபிஷியல் ஓனர். ஓகே, அப்ப என்ன ப்ராப்ளம்? டிமேட் ஷேர்ஸா இருக்கும்போது எங்களோட ரெக்கார்ட்ல இருக்கிற லிஸ்ட் வச்சுதான் நம்ம எல்லாம் இருக்கும் தெரியும். அப்ப எங்களோட ரெக்கார்ட்ல அப்டேட் ஆயிருக்கணும்ல. So in case as per the shareholders direction, 2 is order இருக்கும். In case as per the shareholders director, you cannot comply and the same is properly if communicated. நீங்க communicate பண்ணிருக்கணும். Any dispute is there regarding the right to dividend. யாருக்கு வரணும்? இப்போ பி என்ன சொல்றான், அதெல்லாம் தெரியாது, நீங்க சொன்ன டேட்ல தான் வாங்கிருக்கேன். நீ ஏன் probably if you go for reduction of preference shares, this will come as a case. Accounts போட்டுட்டீங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். I don't know how far you're dealing with this accounts. With the dividend along reduction of preference shares along with dividend, not with dividend. Okay. Lawful adjustment case, this can be done without the pending amount of the closed fund and not the company's default. Only in these five cases, the director and the company will not get a default case. Okay. Nidhi company, if it is a dividend less than 100 rupees, you need not go for all these procedures. கொஞ்சம் ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. Nidhi company பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இது ஒரு பெரிய advantage. Okay. Because what do you mean by Nidhi company? The members are depositing an amount. It's like operating like a bank, almost like a bank. You should not use the name bank. So if it is issuing dividend, declaring dividend for less than 100 rupees, then directly it can go announce in the newspaper in the local language or display in the notice board, directly deposit to the members account. Okay. இந்த 5 daysல வந்து தனியா ஒரு செப்பரேட் அக்கௌண்ட் ஓபன் பண்ற ப்ரொவிஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் எங்களுக்கு தேவை out of scope. Okay. Dividend and beneficial owner, this I have discussed already. Dividend and other types of company, yes, section 8 company. ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க, செக்ஷன் 8 கம்பெனில ப்ராஃபிட்ங்கிற ஒரு கான்செப்டே இல்ல. ஓகே, திஸ் இஸ் பேமெண்ட்ஸ் நான் ப்ராஃபிட் ஆர்கனைசேஷன். ஓகே, அதனால எல்லா கம்பெனிக்கும் போடுற மாதிரி இதுவும் போட்டாதீங்க. Okay, it's prohibited. The dividend is actually prohibited for them. Nidhi company, yes, follow the Nidhi rules and maximum dividend. What you can do is maximum not more than 25% or higher amount, as may be approved by the director, regional director. It should be recorded in writing, and the conditions we have to transfer to the uh, reserve called as general reserve. No default in repayment with respect to mature deposit along with the interest, and you have to comply with the Nidhi rules. If it is a producer company, you will not call this as dividend. You have to call this as limited return. But dividend or provisions என்னன்னா இருக்கோ ditto it will be followed. Please highlight. It will be called as limited return. Okay. So I'm not going line by line. Okay. Sometimes we'll be calling this as patronage bonus. Okay. Company limited by guarantee. Yes, a company for non-profit purpose means profits will be reinvested and it will be used for promoting its non-profit organizations. So Act does not prohibit. AOA provides all the income. Okay, it's a normal. Claiming this and all is done. Okay, procedure for declaration and payment of interim dividend. Ditto the same case. I'm not repeating. Okay, interim dividend headingonna perisa marada same. Only thing you'll not wait for the AGM to help. Okay, so see, verify authorization. Articles of association has authorized. Issue notice for board meeting. Then you go listed companies. You have to notify in the stock exchanges, NSE or BSE, at least 2 working days. Okay, actually, this has to follow for SEBI, but syllabus cover for wider understanding and given. Okay, so at the board meeting, so either satisfy the financial statement, personal liability, which goes out of director's pocket money. So it becomes personal liability for wrong declaration. Provisions has to be made for working expenses, full year depreciation, etc. In case of loss, dividend cannot exceed less more than average. Actually, the point in case of adequacy of profit, actually not get it. Interim dividend profit எல்லாம் தரவே கூடாது. Okay, note பண்ணிக்கோங்க. This one should not come. Then quantum of dividend, entitlement, this are not as normal. Notice on the newspaper at least 7 days. Because it's an interim dividend, we have to go in the notice on the newspaper. Open separate bank account. Printing of dividend, these are not normal. Okay, pass a resolution if needed. Okay, இந்த ரெண்டு பாயிண்ட் மட்டும் ஃபைனல் டிவிடெண்ட் வரும். நோட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. அந்த D point is for final dividend and this I point for the interim final dividend. Okay. This please note the fifth point. If it is a listed company, soon after the board of directors meeting is done, within 30 minutes, you have to immediately disclose to the stock exchange. Okay. Within 30 minutes, the market has closed on a paragraph. And a market has closed, you can disclose market share. So this is again for listed company. You have to give a public notice in advance related to the recommended dividend and declared a dividend. So it's a normal time gap between the two closure book dates, at least 30 days. 30 days gap on per share basis. It's an all I'm not going line by line. It's complete procedure. Not going line by line. Procedure for declaration and payment of final. The same thing. Only difference is you have to hold board meeting. Then you have to go for fixing all the AGM details. AGM notes before 21 clear days. So everything. You remember 3 P's and 2 P's. 3 C's and 2 P's. You remember? 3 C's and 2 P's. properly conducted. Not confused. As per our dividend, only this is a concept. This and all you can just skip also. You can just understand. சும்மா பாருங்க இதான் நடக்கும். See, I have discussed everything. I have not skipped anything. I have seen open பண்றது எல்லாமே இருக்கும். அதனால ஒன்றும் ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை. Procedure for declaration out of reserves, we have checked, right? Reserve should not be a specific reserve. It should be three reserves. And the dividend amount should not exceed the average rate of the 3 years previous dividend. So the same thing, okay? Which is the same now. Ditto the same, okay? So that's about dividend.